Hello everybody, Keith here again. I'm going to have a very quick repot of this Zygopetalum. It's an OID rescue plant which I've had for a few years now, and it's lovely when it flowers, but this latest new growth, we've got a lot of roots which aren't really going anywhere. It's trying to put another new root out there, but it's too high, and it's in the Westland compost, which I've virtually stopped using now, because as always with that stuff, whatever I've tried to do, it's damp down here. You stick your finger in there, it's dry at the top, damp down here, and orchids really don't like that. So I'm going to have it out of the pot, put it in something. I know these like moisture, so it's going to want something retentive, so I'm going to put it in something more like my other zygo type. I've got a Zygopetalum which is doing very much better, so I'm going to put that in a mixture of bark and moss and perhaps a bit of perlite, and I've bought myself some charcoal as well, so I might put a bit of that in just to try and help keep it sweet. So the first thing to do, of course, is see what's inside the pot. The answer is it's not too bad. It isn't the greatest in the world, but we have got root tips, we've got branches, we've got some that are pretty ratty, but we have got some good roots, functioning roots there. But these are just not going down, so they're either too high or the compost doesn't suit it. Altogether, it obviously wants to be moist, so that's fair enough, because the roots that are down into that damp area are looking very good, so that's quite interesting. I've obviously tried to do something with some coarser bark down in the bottom underneath the Westland stuff, but it just isn't getting anywhere. So I'm going to switch off and clean this up, trim off the stuff that's not great. There's a whole chunk of old plant there, which is where I've had the roots out before, and yet coming down through that we've got another lot of roots as well. So we've got an area here which is old, but I can't get at it, so all I can do is trim it up, run it under the tap or something to try and get it. But it's a climber. You can see very clearly that it starts over there and it's coming this way, and it always does. So you could argue it would be better on a mount. I don't think that's really practical for me. And I've grown it fine in a pot before, and we've got lots of nice roots from growing it in a pot. So I'm not going to go too daft, but I am going to try and put it in something a little bit different, in the hope that that will help it launch itself. Because sometimes we've seen with some of the other plants, you do a repot of an unhappy plant and all of a sudden it takes off. So I'll do that, and then I'll come back in a few minutes time. So I've taken the backboard off. There's no roots to it. It's perfectly healthy, it's firm and everything, but it was a long way down, and I just thought it'll probably not be very happy about it, but it's probably better off, because I can now get the plant right down. There were a lot of dead roots under there which have come out. Slightly worrying, there were some dead roots off some of these newer growths, so that's indicative that something wasn't right. But we have got quite a lot of good stuff down here, so I think it's got the makings still, but it's going to have to, I'm going to have to be very careful. But I think I can put it back in this same pot. It's a good size for it, and just start from there. So I've got to make a a mixture up, I think. So I'm going to use something similar to what I've used with several other plants like the Restrepia and one or two others that like moisture but still need to dry out routinely. So let's have a sort out of that and we'll go from there. Okay, there's a small amount of moss in there which has been shredded down to quite small pieces in the hope that it will spread itself through. I've got a fairly generous amount of perlite in there which I'm trying to stop going down to the bottom, and I'm using orchid focus bark, which is a little bit smaller than some of the other stuff I've got, all to try and keep it water retentive, and I have kept it in that before, so excuse me, perlite's a bit dusty. I think that's going to, well, I hope that's going to make it happier than it is at the moment. So I'll pack that in and then we'll just round off. Well, I slightly underestimated the amount of media I was going to need, so I've topped it off with just plain bark. But as you can see, now I've knocked that back bulb off, it's much lower down in the pot. The roots that were exposed off this new growth are now much nearer the bark, and I hope that with this now, with the good roots at the bottom and these new roots off here, that I've got a chance of getting it down and going again. It's a nice new growth, but it's just not showing any great signs of doing a fat lot, so I just want to get it done with, get it seen to, and hopefully that will give it a kickstart. So that's my no ID Zygopetalum repotted. I hope you've enjoyed that sort of quick and dirty one, my reasoning behind it. As I say, I am going further and further away from the Westland mix. I have used it successfully, but only with really thirsty orchids. I got my Oncostelia catatanti absolutely flying in it, but even that, when it got bigger and it slowed down a touch, wasn't all that happy. So I've got some in bags. I'll use it as and when. I still quite like the idea of Ceramis, but there's something about it that, I don't know, the proportions aren't right for my conditions. I'm not saying it's rubbish. If it works for you, then that's brilliant. Please say so and we can all learn something by it. But for me, no, I'm going closer to my own mixes, which is perhaps progress at the end of the day as you learn a bit. But it's still guesswork, ultimately. You can read things up, you can look at it, but at the end, as Roger Frampton so frequently says, don't read the books, read your plants. So, thank you for watching. I hope you've not been too bored by that, and I'll see you soon, because before very much longer I've got to do my in-flower at the end of the month, and this month I've got one or two nice ones to show you. Bye.